Today on Real Nurse Stories, I'm catching up with Liam Caswell. Myself and Liam are both coaches and we both work with nurses. And this year, Liam has pivoted and his business now he has launched is NursePreneur Academy. And Liam is working as a business coach, helping and supporting and coaching nurses who are wanting to learn how to set up their own business, whether that's as a side hustle to nursing or whether it's stepping out fully into running their own business. It's always great to catch up with Liam. We always have great conversation. And if you're listening as a nurse and you may be thinking about entrepreneurship, you're not going to want to miss this episode. There's lots of takeaways and learning from Liam's experience. And Liam also shares how you can get in touch with him if you are interested in working with him as a business coach and joining his academy, where he coaches nurses for 12 months in everything to do with setting up your own business. So grab yourself a cup of tea, put your headphones on, and have a listen to Liam's latest entrepreneurship story. And drop me a comment. I would love to know what you think about this episode. And also, don't forget to follow and subscribe because that helps this podcast to reach more people.
Today, I've got the pleasure of interviewing Liam Caswell. And Liam, we've had many, I think, episodes that we've had over the time we've both been working as coaches, but it's really lovely to have you back today because I know you've been doing lots of exciting things and a few changes here, there, and everywhere. So welcome to Real Nurse Stories, Liam. And I'm very excited to hear about all the good stuff that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I think the last time I spoke to you, I was in Paris, maybe.
Y-
Oh, no, I spoke to you for Aussie Nurse Recruiters, but I
Yeah.
think the time was when I was in Paris. I remember walking through the beautiful Parisian streets, listening back to that episode because I always am my biggest critic, and I was like, that was such a good episode. He's like, oh, thanks, Eva. I actually know things.
Well, we always have a lot to chat about. That's for
Yeah.
sure, Liam. And it's really nice to catch up again because I know it's been a little while. So tell me, what are you up to and what are you doing at the moment?
My goodness, what am I up to? So I think since we last spoke, at the time we spoke last, I was, nurse career coaching, running high performance nursing, working with graduate nurses across Australia to apply, interview, and land their next nursing
Mm.
role. And I'd kind of built, I started building Aussie Nurse Recruiters, which is a recruitment company alongside my colleague Michelle. And through that period of time, I've moved internationally from Paris back to Australia and I had a bit of a life situation where I actually lost all of my life belongings in a fire that
Gosh.
happened like 2020. I don't know if I've told you this, but it happened when I returned back from Paris. And it
Right.
actually had happened months prior and no one told us. So
No.
all of our belongings that had been in storage in Western Sydney went up in flames and no one
Oh,
told us. No one
gosh.
contacted us. So
Oh,
we lost
no.
absolutely everything. And naturally, we moved back from Paris, and I was so excited for the first time in my life because I was going to be able to move into a house and have someone else move me in. But of course,
Yeah.
they couldn't move me in because it had all gone into fire.
No.
It's the small things. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I was really obviously very upset about that. And we lost some family heirlooms and things like that. And just everything that I kind of like had brought to Australia with me from the UK. So it was a really
Yeah.
sad time.
Yeah.
But it was like a catalyst for me to kind of like, I feel like in that moment, that week of learning about it and finding a new place and walking into my new apartment with absolutely nothing to put in it,
Mm.
it was like almost like a stripping of the soul and going, okay, you've lost everything. This is a clean slate. How do you want to rebuild?
Yeah.
And at the time, I was, struggling with a couple of things like my mental health with just that situation, transitioning back into an
Mm.
English speaking country from
Mm.
Paris, trying to lose weight because I'd stacked on like 15 kilos because I'd ate too many chocolate croissants and, Spanish
As you do in
salads.
Paris.
And forget in Paris, I very much indulged in Paris. I mean, it wasn't Paris's fault, but it was, it was mine, and that's okay. But with business and my career as a nurse, I was still at that place where I was like, nursing is not something that I'm planning to go back to. I hadn't needed
Mm.
to until that point, gone back, and I hadn't needed to do anything. And in business, as a nurse career coach, I was loving what I was doing, but I also could see that it had a deadline. I
Yeah.
could see that it had an end point to it, where I was getting kind of worked with over 500 graduate nurses and done thousands of CVs, cover letters,
Yeah.
selection criterias. I was getting bored of it. And I'm very much someone that likes a challenge and likes to do something new and exciting, to my detriment sometimes. So I started thinking about and building the Nursepreneur Academy. And that was like very exciting for me to start building at. And basically it is a space where nurses who are, high performers are in their nursing careers. They are ambitious, driven, motivated, but they start to get that feeling of like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. I don't know that this is where I'm meant to be. I'm looking ahead and I can't see a way forward. I don't want to be the educator. I don't want to be the numb. I don't want to have all the drama that comes with the top of the chain.
Yeah.
And it's designed for those people that have skills, knowledge, and experiences that want to offer them to the world, but they don't know where they fit in the system and where they can do that
Mm.
without needing to go and become a nurse practitioner or do a
Yeah.
PhD or spend money on postgraduates. So I wanted to create a space where I could help nurses translate their skills, knowledge, and experience into an online business. So that was my lived experience. Was my path. And so I started planting the seed for that. And in fact, that seed was planted many years prior, and it had kind of just been stewing because at the time I didn't feel like I had enough experience in business and enough results,
Yeah.
because everybody in you can just call themselves a business coach because they've made money. But what I wanted to make sure was that I actually had tangible, repeatable processes that any nurse could implement into their
Mm.
business that would allow them to make nursing optional. And so the Nursepreneur Academy was born, basically from when I returned back, and I made that transition over 2024. I took some clients on kind of one to one, and started working with people in building their business or rebuilding their business for some people that already had established businesses. And then in 2025, I really doubled down on that and started creating more content, pivoted my whole brand, redesigned my logo, my colors, my niche, did all the groundwork again,
Yes.
reinvested in another business coach, spending more money. But I needed to do that for myself, for the fact that I'd created a job that I no longer kind of wanted to
Mm.
do. I didn't want to do the career
Mm.
stuff anymore because it wasn't aligned. I wasn't a
No.
nurse anymore. I wasn't nursing. I wasn't sitting on graduate panels. So I wasn't actually the most up to date reference at that point.
Yeah.
And I had to be really honest with myself. No one ever said that to me, but
No.
I was actually aware.
Yeah.
And I also had kind of subtly made the decision to never go back to nursing,
Yeah.
because once you learn how to make money online without needing to sell pictures of your feet or whatever other body parts, because we don't do that around here, um, then you can repeat the process. Sorry, I took it to a place there, Eva. But that was like my moment of, oh, I can do this in career coaching. I can do this in business coaching. I can do this in podcast coaching. I can do this in content
Mm.
creation. Like whatever I choose to do, I had built the belief that I could monetize them.
Yeah.
Um, in a way that aligned to me and for our clients as well. So I built the Nursepreneur Academy. I was less aligned with nursing per se and had built the safety net for myself. And so in transition to Nursepreneur Academy and launching my Nursepreneur Academy group, where I take nurses over 12 months to build their business from scratch, even if they're not a coach, even if they don't have
Yeah.
all of the things they think they need. I decided to deregister myself as a nurse, and I decided to pull back from APRA. Eva's
Wow.
face is like, "What?" I decided to pull back, yeah, and I made a decision to deregister myself. And the reason I did that was, one, because it felt like a part of my identity that I no longer belonged to, in that sense that I wasn't a nurse anymore. I'm not a nurse. And I even have conflict with myself when I introduce myself as a nurse,
Yeah.
because I can hear all the other nurses that are like, "You're not a nurse anymore. You
Yeah.
haven't nursed for 5 years." And so there was that part of it where it's just like, it's just not part of my identity now.
Yeah.
It's my business, but I don't have to be a practicing nurse to teach nurses how to leave nursing.
No.
Like, it's not essential.
Yeah.
And so that was one part of it. The second part was that my partner and I tend to get, through his work, we can be posted overseas. So we've just been in Paris for 18 months, and we may be posted again for another 3-4 years at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So what do I do then? When I've been out of clinical practice
Yeah.
for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years? Do I keep doing a shift every month just to keep my hours up? And I don't want to do that. I
Mm.
would rather spend that time on my business with my clients. And the other side of it was that I phoned APRA and they couldn't tell me, which they could not give any advice. I said to them, I've coached hundreds, if not thousands of nurses over the last 5 years. I've supported them in their careers directly. I have helped them manage their mind, their mental health, like all of these aspects. Does this constitute as hours?
Mm.
And they were like, don't know. And so I was just like, I'm not even, my biggest fear was someone's going to report me to APRA, which was just totally made up in my brain. But I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want that hanging over me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be sitting on social media, not speaking my truth because I'm worried that some complete stranger is going to say, Liam said something and it's not
Mm.
right. So I chose to deregister myself. So that's the synopsis of what's been happening with me. Pivot, rebrand, moved internationally, lost everything, catalyst moment of like, what are you doing in your
Yeah.
life? And it was just like the last 12 to 18 months, I've built the NursePreneur Academy, pivoted the brand. I've lost over 15 kilos. I've finally prioritized myself, finally
Mm.
made it safe
Mm.
for me to have what I want to have. And I'm in a good place, even though this year I've been very sick with the cold, but that's a
Yeah.
totally different story.
I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? How, you know, trace back to 2023 and losing everything after coming back from Paris is a catalyst almost. Well, it's a catalyst, but it's also an opportunity, isn't it? It's for change and for growth. And I just think it's so often that happens in life, that something happens and it upends everything. And then when everything's coming back down, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know whether I really want it to go back to how it was that way. It is a catalyst for change. And I think, well done you for wanting to pivot and do something different. Because as you were saying about deregistering, I feel this, my God. And I can relate some ways to that because I had dual registration. I had UK registration as well as Australian registration. And there was some kind of a stuff up over change of address and emails. And I got deregistered not by choice in the UK, but because I hadn't renewed.
Mm,
And I can remember being so upset about it because you're right. Your identity as a nurse is so wrapped up in these things. And when I kind of realised what had happened and I, jumped up and down a bit and they said, well, we can put you back on the register in the UK, this was. But you're going to have to do all these things. And they send me this list and I'm like, I can't do this. It's impossible. And at that point, I just had to be, are you going to have to let it go?
yeah.
But it's because I think it's such a part of who you are when you're a nurse, that whole having to register every year, maintain your competencies, you've got to tick all the boxes. And sometimes I think people don't really realize how hard that is for nursing. We have to abide by lots of rules and regulations and codes of conduct, and to step away from all that, it's a huge thing actually, Liam.
Like, it was never on my agenda. It was
No,
never something that I would ever do.
no.
And talk about it flippantly here, like I just made the decision. It's not what the reality looked like. I spent years as a career coach not working clinically, a couple of years, where probably from like 2022, I
Yeah,
haven't done it clinically.
yeah.
Well, clinically, I'm not fresh. I'm not up to date. And people would question me about that and I'd say, but I don't need to be. Where I'm heading, we don't need to be. And I think that nursing was a conduit. It was a part of my process. I needed that phase to be able to get to where I am today. And I'm so grateful for it. And not everybody that becomes a nursepreneur needs to deregister
No.
themselves, but it just felt right for me. And don't get me wrong, I grieved it. and
Yeah.
I grew it in my own way. I sat with it for a long time. I managed my brain around it.
Mm.
And I also got like super frustrated and annoyed with the system when they
Yeah.
couldn't just give me an
Yeah.
answer. And, I also felt so disheartened. This is so silly, but when you get the email from them that you're finally not registered, it is just the coldest, most horrible email that you could ever receive that must have been written by someone who has absolutely zero empathy or like zero life skills. It was just so like, "Hi, Liam, you've been deregistered.
We've
Uh,
erased you.
Good luck with your future." Like, not even good luck. It was like, "Thank you, Abba." And I was like, "Could you not just put one line in there that said, 'Thank you for your contribution'?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just they don't owe me anything." But
Yeah. Yeah.
my brain and my ego was like, "What do you mean? Like, I stayed late all the time and I did all these
Yeah.
things, and the amount of times that I didn't have a break."
Yeah.
Um, no one cares.
Oh,
No one cares. And so it was a real moment. But interestingly, I thought I would face more criticism
mm,
by doing that. I was worried about what people on my Instagram and my email list and people that listen to Nursepreneur Academy podcast, what they would say.
mm.
And interestingly, the opposite happened. I had so many messages from people that were like, "Congratulations, you've escaped." Like, amazing, like, "So happy for you. One
Yeah.
day that will be me too."
Yeah.
And so it was this like influx of just like love and kindness and compassion and also aspiration. I didn't see it like that. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
could be looked at as like a marketing ploy, but I really was like, "No, I'm just done."
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Oh, that's amazing. I want this for me too." And so it made me kind of like sink back into Nursepreneurship is not for everybody, but for the people that it is for and the people that wanna do it, how great is it that there are
Yeah.
people like you that are doing
Yeah.
this, and we're doing it in different ways, and we're
Yeah.
showing you that it can be done in your way,
Yeah.
on your
Yeah.
terms, and you can be successful at it.
Yeah. And I think, I often reflect, for me, I think post COVID was a massive catalyst for changes in nursing. And I worked for quite a long period of time during COVID and had contact with a lot of grad nurses. And we're, fabulous, fabulous nurses. But what struck me then was this whole shift in mindset about they wanted to take reduced hours contract. So they had an option to do something, in their words, less stressful. And I think for me, that was when I realized there was a turning point coming in nursing and people were not going to tolerate what had always been tolerated in nursing. And I find it fascinating that if you look at nursing now, there's a big intergenerational mix in nursing. And the stoic kind of baby boomer age group that I kind of belonged to, who put up and shut up and got on with it, that's not the same anymore. And I think people are looking at nursing through a different lens in that, yes, you can be a nurse, but you can also be a nurse and do something else. And I think the other thing I pick up is if you look at American nurses, and I know you follow quite a few, and I do too. And they, in many ways, are streets ahead of here and the UK in terms of nursepreneurship and still having a foot in practice, which is a choice, and that's fine. Some people want to do that, some people don't. Some people want to come out completely. But it seems that that's more of I want to say accepted model. I don't know if that's the right word, but it seems to work well there. Whereas here, I think people are choosing, but I get a sense that a lot of people are choosing to do what you did, Liam, and have done nursing and like, I don't want to keep doing this. I'm out
Yeah.
because we're still not listening to what are endemic systemic issues in nursing. It's like blinkers
Mm.
are on, headphones are on. We don't want to hear, we don't want to see, we don't want to do. And I think that in itself demonstrates there's this groundswell change that we don't have to put up with this. We have a choice. Comes back to choice.
No,
So I think,
it does. And I think that we also
There you go.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. We also live in such a deeply dysregulated world where, outside of nursing, we're triggered all the time. The news, the media,
Yeah.
yeah, everything is designed to get a reaction out of you. You can sit on TikTok and Instagram,
Yeah.
and within the span of a minute, you can be laughing hilariously at a dog that is pulling a funny face that's doing something
Yeah.
silly. And then the next minute, you hear a song that's got you so emotional that it reminds you of a memory, right, that
Yeah.
you'd forgotten about. And so, like, constantly on this spectrum of life and emotion being
Yeah.
pulled left to right from 0 to 100, and then that's just our personal life. Then you go to work,
Yeah.
and you've gotta deal with, like, the staffing. You've gotta deal with sick human
Yeah.
beings who
Yeah.
are naturally dysregulated, quite rightly so,
Yeah.
very needy, and a lot of help and support. Then you have your peers that are, dealing with their own stuff. They got,
Yeah.
3 kids, and they go to work to escape, but they tune out, like, all of the things. So,
Yeah.
and so it makes total sense to me that just life in general, we've got that cumulative stress
Yeah.
collectively. And I think being able to allow nurses to have their job where they go and they do their 2, 3 days a week, and also then build something on the side of that
Yeah.
that allows them at some point in the future to make nursing optional. I think it's actually essential for having lived that path, not
Yeah.
just because I sell that now, because I've lived that path and I see other people living that path. I just can't see it how we can maintain a workforce in the current
No.
climate without introducing something like this where people can have what I call a hybrid career.
Yeah.
You're a nurse,
Yeah.
you're also a nursepreneur. And it doesn't mean you need to be an IV hydration nurse or a
No.
cosmetics nurse. Maybe you are, like, I've got a nurse that I worked with who's incredible. She's a mum,
Yeah.
and she transitioned into motherhood. She had her first bub, and she really struggled in the 4th trimester.
Yeah.
And, like, how many mums and women can relate to that
Yeah.
experience? And so she now coaches women through the 4th trimester. Like, it's got nothing to do with her nursing experience. She brings that into it. She's not like a 4th trimester specialist expert, but she is through her lived experience. She's gone through, she's healed. It's been a couple of years now,
Yeah.
and she wants to help the people through that process.
Yeah.
And that lights up and gives her so much purpose beyond the
Yeah.
bedside. And now the bedside is like, that's where I make money that keeps my life
Yeah.
stable and
Yeah.
affords the existence that I have. And now I'm planting the seed because when little Joey, is,
Yeah.
you know, 4, 5, 6, I want to be spending more time with them.
Yeah.
I want to spend more time with them now. And I want to spend more time with them in the future. I don't want to have the option to just go to one day or work one shift a month
Yeah. And
and run my business.
that's the other thing, isn't it? We're not good at family friendly hours. So when you start to have a family, a young family, you know, you're not able to be present as much because shift work doesn't facilitate that. And I think, the other thing as you were talking, I was thinking nurses are really creative,
Oh, yeah.
you know, even just from working with nurses, you pick that up all the time. It's like the skills outside of nursing, they've generally already kind of got that practical approach to, or might be really good at something that's not nursing related. And I think there, you know, there are many people in nursing who could very easily set up a business as a sideline, doing what they love, which offsets then some of the difficult, challenging stuff in nursing. It's like an outlet for that, isn't it? If you
Yeah.
do it
It's,
in a
yeah.
way that works for you, why not? Why would you not want to do that?
Creative stress relief, it is coming back to those things that you used to do as a kid that
Yeah,
you've stopped doing because you're too
yeah,
busy,
yeah,
nurse, and you're serious now because you're an
yeah,
adult. I did all of that as well. Like,
yeah,
I loved theater and singing and acting and playing. I stopped doing all of that when I was a nurse
yeah.
because I couldn't fit it into my
No,
schedule. I don't have kids, I can't
yeah,
even begin juggling kids and all of the things.
no,
Empathy for, that, um I respect that so deeply, but I just think that giving people the space or giving yourself, because your manager's never gonna come and say, "Hey, Eva,
no,
I was thinking, you wanna work 3 days a week and build a business on the side?" And
no,
if they do say they're a
Trying to
keeper.
get rid of you.
You should never leave. But it is about coming back to the things that light you up so that you can creatively relieve the stress of just life and personal and professional life. And you're right, you touched on this, but I literally think every nurse has a six-figure business idea.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
genuinely believe this to be
Yeah.
true. Because every nurse I know has had an element of burnout. Like,
Yeah.
do we need like 30 million burnout coaches? No. But then, yes, because also the world is
Yeah.
suffering and
Yeah.
9 billion people on this earth. And, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But I do think every nurse has a six-figure replace your nursing salary idea that could be unearthed. I also believe that, I was saying about transferable skills. Nurses are natural entrepreneurs. Like
Yeah.
everything we do, we take people through a service. It's service-based
Yeah.
business, right? It's
Yeah.
hospitality, basically, on
Yeah.
steroids. And so we take people through a client-patient
Yeah.
journey. We cater for their needs. We coach, mentor, guide, advise people. We
Yeah.
advocate. They're all skills. Getting your patient out of bed in the morning is sales. It is sales
It's true.
marketing because
Yeah.
John doesn't want to get up. But you've
No.
got to be like, John, if we get up now, your daughter's coming in at 10 a.m. this
Yeah.
morning. It's like marketing with a bit of bribery. If you want your end home, let's get you up and moving. Literally everything that we do can put a spin on it. And I could, I could sit here and go back and forth and debate
Yeah.
how is that an entrepreneurial skill set. And the fact that we have to do less, no, we have to do more with
More.
less
Yeah.
is entrepreneurship in
Yeah.
itself. The fact that
Absolutely.
we have to make like split decisions, critical decisions in an instant is
Yeah.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You respond to something in real time. And so I think nurses are naturally poised for nursepreneurship, regardless of which business model, which niche they serve, whether they do a nursing-based business or they do something totally non-nursing related, I know there are people in the nurse entrepreneur space globally. Some people coach people on how to set up their podcast. Other
Yeah.
people are coaching nurses about financial health and literacy. You have patient advocates. You have people that are leveraging their skills, knowledge, and experience to be an advocate on behalf of people that have got chronic GI issues. Or I had someone that was a patient advocate for pediatric patients, families with kids who are heavily invested in their kids
Yeah.
that have chronic diseases, getting the best advice, getting the best
Yeah.
support. And so it helps them navigate the healthcare system. I mean, the opportunities are endless. And you're right, in the US, it is huge. It is like everybody's got a hustle,
Yeah.
everybody's doing the thing.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the side hustle or the nursepreneur business that you can build is you build it on your terms. You don't
Yeah.
have to build it as a seven-figure business tomorrow. In
No.
fact, it's going to take you 3 years to get there anyway. So you may as well
Yeah.
start, right? Because people always say, it's kind of like my personal trainer always jokes about this. He'll always say to me, people say to me, Liam, I don't want to get too muscular. And he always says, well, good, because you're not going to get muscular by accident. like no one gets muscular by accident.
No.
Like it takes years of a lot of eating and a lot of lifting. So the same is true as an entrepreneur, right? Like
Yeah.
no one becomes a seven-figure, despite what Instagram and TikTok will tell
Yeah.
you. No one
No.
is making it happen overnight.
Yeah.
They've been working on it
Yeah.
for years, if not 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so just like a nursing career, nursepreneurship it's a long game. It's a career pathway.
Yeah.
And it's a really exciting one where if you're ambitious, driven, motivated, and you love change and adapting and pivoting, which most nurses do because we're wired that
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
it's a perfect career path because there's no ceiling.
And I love that, that the work that you're doing, you are showing nurses possibilities of having options and doing something different. Whereas I think, before COVID, I don't think there would have been necessarily the same thoughts that people were having about wanting to do something different. I think in many ways, that's probably one of the positives to come out of COVID is people realizing that you can do something different. You don't always have to do what you've always done. And that if you want to have both a foot in nursing and a business, you can, or you don't have to. The choice is yours. But I think I love how you articulated that, because I think nurses naturally are great problem solvers. I've always said that, no matter where you work, what area, what department, if you want to know how to solve something, ask a nurse, because generally they'll come up with great ideas and things that haven't been thought of. That's just the nature of how
Mhm.
we've been trained and how we do what we do. So, that mindset can be very easily applied to entrepreneurship. And I
Absolutely.
think, you've got a lot of knowledge from your own journey. So you're best placed to be able to share, what
Mm.
you've learned, how you've done it, what would you do differently? And that's very valuable. And I think, I can totally understand why nurses would say, well done you, because I think a lot of people would aspire to do what you're doing. And in many ways, you've kind of held up the, being courageous. I've backed myself. I've taken this decision. And a lot of people think that, but don't actually carry it through. So I
Mhm.
think in demonstrating that, you've shown other people
Mm.
that it's possible to do. And that's what people will admire, the
Thank you.
honesty.
It's nice to have that reflected back that I did not pay Eva to say that, but
You didn't.
sometimes I have to remind myself of that, and I I don't think that I am uniquely special or in any way, shape, or form in that space. I think it's more that I just commit to doing the work. And I think I used to run stories about not being the person that sticks to anything. That
Mm,
used to be one of my main stories, would
mm,
be like I played the piano, for example, and I would learn half a song and then I would not finish it. And it would drive me insane. But I'd be like, Liam, you could just go and like learn the rest of the song and finish it off. But I wouldn't. And then I would
yeah.
hold the story, and the story would prove the reality of I'm someone that never finishes things. And so, in the lead up to the fire and my belongings being burnt, that was my narrative. But I was actively working on that story. And for what people probably don't see or know about me so much is like, pretty much my whole nursing career, I've been doing some variety of self-coaching, clinical supervision, or therapy.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I needed that myself to heal from life situations and traumas that I went through. And just to become a better version of myself,
Mm,
or to become a more evolved, more awake, more aware, maybe not
mm.
so much better, but just more
Yeah.
present,
Yeah.
grounded. And in doing that work, it's allowed me to become the version of myself that commits to something and I do it as
Mm,
best as I can. I still mess
mm.
up and miss things and whatever else. But my coach recently reflected that back to me, similar to what you did today, which is, most people tease themselves with the idea
Yeah.
and they never actually execute.
No.
And I'm proud of that. But I'm also like, oh, that's because I've also done like 10 years of, okay, start,
Yeah.
fail, start,
Yeah.
fail,
Yeah.
start, fail, 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 start. And so as you said earlier, we see the highlight reel.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wish that like all of us could afford to have someone following us around documenting the journey,
Yeah.
because how fun would that be to actually see the reality of it, and the
Yeah.
days where you just go, oh God, what the like why the I had a day like last week where I was like, why did I choose to deregister? I just should
Yeah.
just go take a job. Like, what if I want to take a job in the future? And I'm like, you know what, Liam? Like, you work it out, nursing is this one avenue that you could go, and
Yeah.
you've proved to yourself you could work in
Yeah.
marketing, work in, and so I think the more you do that work, the more you commit, you do it, you fail, and you start over, the more you build belief that regardless of what happens, you've got your own
Yeah.
back. And I talk about that a lot, like with our nurses and even in nurse careers. It's having the self-confidence and maybe the audacity and a little bit of delusion to believe that regardless of what happens, you've got your own back. That's a skill we
Yeah.
have to develop.
Yeah. And I think, there's so much about your mindset being an entrepreneur, because I think if I look back, there's times when I think if I wasn't the person that I am, I could have very easily said, well, no, I can't do it, too hard, not doing it. And I think your mindset is key to stepping into, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take you out of your comfort zone. It's going to be a challenge. You're going to have to learn heaps of things. That's the reality. And you're right. If you look at social media, you know, there's this shiny perception. What people don't see is what goes on in the background and how many times you're tearing your hair out because you've recorded something and lost it and then can't retrieve it. And, you know, we've all been there, but we don't talk about that. And I think mindset is key to being an entrepreneur, but also key to being flexible and not stuck in the fear mindset. You know, okay, well, that didn't work. How can I do this differently so that next time that doesn't happen? Or how can I make this work? It's being able to question yourself, really. You've got to have a good working relationship with yourself to be an entrepreneur. And I think the work that you've done, you know, and continue to do on yourself prepares you for that, because you have to have a good awareness of where you've come from, where your roadblocks are, what's holding you back, and what do you need to let go of to be able to move forward. And I think, you know, the work that you've described and the input that you've made helps you to be where you are and help others actually to see how important
I
that is.
just think the irony of entrepreneurship is the more you do your own work, the more you
Yeah.
get paid to help others do the work that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
You know, the more that I
Yeah.
coach my nurses and
Yeah.
nurses, the more I'm like, "Oh," I remember that phase where I just kept telling myself that like no one was gonna buy from me. I remember that phase of being like, how tragic is it,
Yeah.
Liam, that you're posting that video and their critic is so loud. And it's like now my nurses come to me and I'm like, from a place of, you know, wisdom and growth, I can
Yeah.
go, okay, I hear you, I see you, I
Yeah.
see that part of you. You know, let's like debunk this. There was really going on here.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing to be able to offer. And I have moments where like my favorite thing to do in my business is coach. It's
Yeah.
just like everything else I can do with that. If I could sit and coach all day, all week, I
Yeah.
would, because I love just seeing the penny drop for people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love them meet the parts of themselves that they've like shut off. And I love them just starting to believe that it's possible, or at least buy into the thinking that I wish I had access to when I was that version
Yeah.
of myself. And so that's just like a, you know, beautiful thing. And none of us started here. I didn't start with the coaching
No.
certification. And I think that's important to note for people listening. I just was a nursery unit manager who had helped, you know, 10, 20 people get jobs in the system. I never thought that was going to be a business idea until I had my own little dark night of the soul and a burnout episode. A career coach that I hired that was a non-nurse said to me, "Why don't you just be a career coach for
Yeah.
nurses?" And I mean, I was like, "But there's millions of them. Like, there's hundreds of career coaches that
Yeah.
do CV cover letter selection criteria." And she was like, "Yeah, but there's no nurse career coach like you that's doing it." And I was like, "Oh," and so you don't even
Yeah.
have to reinvent the wheel. Everybody comes to me and they think they've got to come up with the next, you know, ChatGPT.
No.
And I'm like, "No, you just have to create something that already exists, but put it through the lens of your lived experience. Give people a reason to buy into your perspective, your point of view."
Yeah.
That's more than enough to build to replace a nursing salary
Yeah.
online. You
Yeah.
don't have to be Elon Musk. That's great if you are. You can
Yeah.
definitely come and tell people that I
Yeah.
coached you, but that's not what we're here for, right? We're
No.
just here to serve the world and serve the people
Yeah.
that you want to serve
Yeah.
in that past version of you.
So, Liam, what are your plans? Where are you going to go with this? Because it's still relatively young, but I'm curious to know. You referenced earlier that you had this kernel of an idea in your brain, and I know how you think because I've interviewed you quite a few times now. So I'm curious to know, you know, where do you see this going? What are the possibilities here for you?
That's such an interesting question. The immediate thought that came to my brain was global domination.
Yeah, why not?
You look, you know, like we'll chew one thing at a time. Look, where I'm at is what I've learned the more that I've done business and the more that I've evolved as a nursepreneur and as a human who nurses, is that you can only really do one to two things well in a
Mhm.
12-month period. So I used to be the person that would be like, I'm gonna write a book, start a YouTube channel, have a podcast. Like I was so fight or flight about life. I'm gonna lose all the weight. I'm gonna I get my nutrition, like, I would do all of the things, right? I'm
Yeah.
gonna have 300 clients, I'm gonna travel every quarter, and I'm gonna be a Broadway actor. And no, none of that happened, of course. So I now I'm very cautious about the goals that I set for myself,
Mm.
and I run them through that filter of, okay, 12 months, what is like the most important thing that moves the needle for this business and for my clients and for their experience and for my growth as well, that keeps me, moving forward and developing. So, this year it's been about a complete brand repivot, which is like more than one thing, but I
Yeah.
put it in one basket. And through that, of course, as you build a brand, people
Yeah.
say, "Do you want to write a book? Do you want to do this? Do you want to like come on this podcast?"
Yeah.
And you have to start going, no, no. And the more you say no, the more you say yes to the things that actually
Yeah.
matter. So this year, it is, I launched the NursePreneur Academy group and we took in our first cohort, which was incredible. And we've got nurses in there that are working with me over 12 months. Because that's how long it takes,
Yeah.
it takes time. And I wanted to create a
Yeah.
space that wasn't like feeding into your fight or flight and
Yeah.
stress. Like, let's do it well and do it properly. 12 months from no idea to business, clients, social media, full personal brand in 12 months. So build that alongside them. And I have my own one-to-one nursing clients as well who have more established businesses that I coach personally. And so the next phase or next year is about launching more of the group style for
Mm.
NPA and the group, probably pulling back a little bit on the one-to-ones, even though I love it,
Yeah.
because you obviously have to allocate your time and go, where do I need to put my time so I can build and grow the business? And so the skill set or the things that I'm looking to double down and develop next year is more around podcasts. So even though I've been doing the podcast for
Yeah.
years, I've been throwing shit at the wall for years and I've not been so strategic about it. And I've not really thought about it. I've just gone, today I want to talk about imposter
Yeah.
syndrome. And I love that about the podcast, but also the way the internet works and the world works, you do need to have an element of strategy behind
Yeah.
it. So that's part of the process for me. And then also, I do see YouTube in my future in terms of a YouTube channel, because I think that would be fun to do.
Mhm.
And I want to develop that skill set. YouTube, for any entrepreneurs listening, is the second biggest search engine on the internet. Google, AI, ChatGPT, and YouTube is the second, and probably TikTok. They're your main search engine. So
Mhm.
if you're not on those platforms, you're not leveraging them, you're missing eyeballs. And also, people can't spend a lot of time with you, right? Social media, Instagram, TikTok, they can spend 3 minutes with you. On YouTube, they can spend 20, 30, an hour,
Yeah.
if it's valuable and it speaks to what they need from you. So
Yeah.
I think that's in the pipeline. I did tease myself with the idea of writing a book. I even went to like a book cover designer. It was like a free AI tool that I was playing with, and I was sitting, as you do at like
Yeah.
9:30 evening, and it came into my emails, and I put it in, and the book was gonna be called Make Nursing Optional, and it designed a cover for me, and I was like, "Oh god, I love that." I just felt it in my soul. I was like, "You need to write this book at
Yeah.
some point, like, how you can help people make nursing optional, get
Yeah.
out of it." My whole career, that's what plagued me.
Yeah.
What do I do? Where do I go? What's my purpose? How do I make this work for me? And so that's, version one. That's version one, but that's probably 3 years worth of work there based on
Okay.
how I think right now. I would love to be on stages, inspiring, educating nurses,
Yeah.
nursepreneurs. I'd love to be doing more speaking, but I've also done some speaking, and I think it's not what it's all wrapped up to be.
Mm.
The travel, people don't like to pay you, and there's a lot of work that goes into it as well for not a lot of return, other than inspiring people, which is great. But as a business, time is money. And so, yeah, lots of things I would love. I know you spoke about this, but I would love one day to have like a retreat based event where like we go away for a week and do business. But it's business in Bali and it's lovely and it's like
Yeah.
grandy,
Yeah.
do yoga.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
real like healing nursepreneur led business conference retreat. I'd love to do stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, the beauty is the world's your oyster. I actually will say this. I'll put it out there. I've never talked about this publicly, but I will say this, which is I would love to write, and I have been secretly writing a nursing musical because I love theatre and I love
Yeah.
musicals and I play and I sing And I used to do a lot of acting. And so I've compiled like 2 songs, right? But I tease myself with this idea all the time
Yeah.
of creating a nursing musical, which I'm sure no one wants. But like, I think one day I will take it to like a Fringe show and I will put it on.
Yeah.
I
Well,
will a version of Liam in the future that
yeah.
does that. Maybe even stars in it because I can't help myself. And I'll pretend to be a nurse again. But I just think that there's so many the nursing lived experience
Yeah.
through a career should be documented and put into something that is emotional and emotive and powerful because it is what
Yeah.
we see every day. Like if you think of a 12-hour day as a
Yeah.
nurse,
Yeah.
that's that's a movie,
Yeah.
and it's just not captured enough.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't have the skills to do that yet, but I'm planting the seed. Maybe that's what we'll do in the future.
I love that because you've already referenced that theatre was, and is a passion of yours. So that's really revisiting those things that, you love doing and incorporating them. So I think we've got it live on the podcast, or it will be live when it goes up. So,
Oh my god, I have to do it, and I told people that, "Oh my goodness, who do you think you are,
oh
Liam?"
yeah. But this is testament really to the work that you're doing because you are helping people to take that kernel of an idea and turn it into something, and it's exactly the same process, for what you want to do. Me, two coaches put two coaches together. I've got a coaching question for you here. So as you were talking, I want to ask you about legacy because
Mm,
you're doing very important work here, and whether you've had any thoughts about legacy, thinking specifically about what you've pivoted into doing now. What might that look like in terms of legacy for you?
that's really interesting because I avoid this kind of stuff, I think, because I don't have children. I don't plan to have children,
Mm,
and I always look at it through that lens. I think
mhm.
about societal, like, the legacies, the family you leave, that kind of lens is what I look at it through, and I don't and I struggle with that because I go, "Does anyone care? And who does care?" Moving forward. But for me, like, why I do what I do is because I always like to come back to and think of past Liam that spent 10 years struggling, in the system and feeling like he had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And that was for a number of reasons, not just because of nursing. But I think that the work that I do, I do think a lot about the podcast. And I think about how future family members will be able to hopefully find it, listen to it, hear it, be inspired by it, learn from it, or maybe just laugh and go, oh my goodness, what did they think back in 2020?
Can I just come in there a minute? Because I found that fascinating that you interpreted legacy as family. So
Yeah.
I, in my head, see legacy as what is it that you, Liam Caswell, want to be known for in
Mm,
your lifetime? Not necessarily family, but what would that great coaching question when you're 90 years old, what would you be most happy to see if you looked back at your life having done all these great things? What
yeah.
would you most like to be remembered for, if you like? It's purpose. What's the purpose? Where's it all leading?
What comes up for me when you reframe it like that is I just want people to hopefully through my work come back to themselves. I
Okay.
want people to be remembered. I want to be remembered for being someone that helped people break free.
Okay.
I feel like all life I have, being a gay guy in a small town,
Mhm.
coming at like all of the layers of my life, it's always been about unlocking and becoming aware of the next version. And I feel like that's what I do. I feel like that's my
Yeah.
goal is I help people see that what they want is possible. You're gonna love this synchronicity right now. It's 1514 as we're recording this. And that is actually a date that is very significant to my hometown. How funny is that? Yeah, we were talking about sides and stuff earlier. I think for me, it is about making sure that people feel seen in my work and that they understand that they're not stuck and they're not alone.
Mm.
And that's the legacy that I get to leave is it's okay to break the rules. It's
Yeah.
okay to not follow the traditional path. It's okay to listen to your inner wisdom. And I hope that I know that through the work that I do,
Yeah.
that will be the result.
Yeah.
all the like the money, the income, I've helped 500 nurses. That's a beautiful thing. I've got 250 episodes in the
Yeah.
podcast. Wow. I've got 5,000 followers. Wow. None of that really matters to me. Um, because it's those moments in those one-to-one coaching calls or the group coaching calls or a little message you get from a
Yeah.
client that's just like, today you woke me up. Today you made me see that I can do more than what I thought I could do. And that to me is like,
Yeah.
gold. Hopefully I answered your question better. I'm
Can
trying
I,
not to give you a
no,
performative
no, no.
answer.
Can I offer you an observation?
Yes.
Because everything that you've talked about today, if I was to apply legacy to what you've spoken about today, there is something here about you are creating for others model that grows other nurse entrepreneurs. So in starting where you're starting, this group of people are going to go on and possibly train another group of people, and so on and so on and so on. If you think about the effect of what you're doing going outwards from here, potentially that's massive. And it's not necessarily that you're going to do all that, but you've started the rock rolling down the hill that's gathering the moss as it's going. So your first cohort, where do they go next? And how are
Mm,
they? That's an
the recruit.
observation as you were talking. That's
Yeah.
what it made me think of, you know?
Yeah. As soon as you say that, I think to myself, my ultimate kind of dream within my business when I first started it was I wanted to equip people with the tools to be able to self-coach and self-lead because it changed my life. It changed everything about
Yeah.
my life. And so when I think of that, I think of how I've embedded that in the NursePreneur Academy
Yeah.
and how I teach my clients to self-coach. And now, actually, just last week, one of my clients was telling me that she was teaching her client to
Well, there
self-coach.
you go.
And
Yeah.
that's that
Yeah.
knock-on approach. And it's just
Yeah.
like, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's what we do,
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
such a great conversation, Liam.
So good. So good. Oh,
So I'm conscious of the time and we talk forever. We could probably keep talking for hours, but we don't have that luxury. So
yeah.
I really would like to give you the opportunity, Liam, just to say, to people listening, if they want to contact you and find out more about the work that you do, where can they find you?
Fabulous. Thank you. So I'm on Instagram at NursePreneur Academy. It will be in the show notes, NursePreneur Academy _ or you could just search my name, Liam Caswell. It probably will come up. I am also have the podcast, NursePreneur Academy, where I talk all things building business, making nursing optional. I try to keep it real, raw, authentic, but also have people like Eva come on and share their stories so that you can see what's possible. And I have a couple of freebies. So I have a bedside to business roadmap for nurses who are sitting in a job that they're like, I can't do this forever.
Mm.
And it's completely free. It's a PDF guide download and I step you through the stages that I would take you through to take you from bedside to business. And I recently just created a free online 90-minute on-demand training, which talks you through the 6 steps of how do you make nursing optional. So that if you're more audiovisual, then you can just watch that, sit down, grab a cuppa, go through that
Yeah,
process, hopefully be inspired and be like, I'm ready to go make it happen. But of course, if you have any questions, queries, comments, or anything from this episode, then just send me a message.
that's great. I've so enjoyed our conversation, Liam. It's always good to catch up with you, and we cover a range of things. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.